Hello, welcome to this next video for CMI Assignment 502. This tackles assessment criteria 3.2. So we're moving on to task 3B, discuss methods used to monitor and manage individual and team performance. And this is assessment criteria 3.2, evaluate good practice for enabling and supporting high performing teams. I've got two approaches that I'm going to discuss. I'm going to talk about team building and team coaching. And I'll have a little discussion here just about the pros and cons of both, a little bit of a comparison as well. So we've got to evaluate, which means that we do need to look at the pros and cons of both. So strengths and weaknesses, arguments for and against, similarities and differences. We should judge the evidence from different perspectives, make a valid conclusion or reason judgment. Apply current research or theories to support the evaluation when applicable. So I also have within here just a few little quotes. And I found a good resource. Henley Business School has published some good stuff on team coaching. So if you have a little look at their website, you'll find some good, solid, well-written summaries of what these strategies are, and not so much an evaluation of them because obviously they're trying to flog it, but it does have some good sort of theoretical insights about the benefits of specifically team coaching. Okay, the first one I want to talk about then is, building trust. So strategies to build trust, specifically the team building event. So this became popular, was being pretty popular over the last 20 years or so, when you get everybody out for the day and you go and do something fun. I remember taking a bunch of people up for a walk up Whernside in the Yorkshire Dales for a day, and what a nice day we had. A lot of the thinking around this comes from Lencioni's five dysfunctions. So Patrick Lencioni, the very famous little framework that suggests that when you have a dysfunctional team, there's a pattern that you tend to observe. So at the top, inattention to results. That happens because there's an avoidance of accountability. Why are people avoiding accountability? Because they lack commitment. Why do they lack commitment? Because there's a fear of conflict. So that's really an absence of psychological safety. People just stay quiet in meetings. They don't say what they really think because they don't want to have their head bitten off by an angry boss, whatever. And why is that? Because there's an absence of trust. So Lencioni's argument is that dysfunctions in teams typically stems from the root cause, stems from a absence of trust. So what we need to do if we want to do this better is begin to build trust in the team. How do we do that? Often, let's go paintballing, or escape rooms, quite popular. Or in my case, a stroll up Whernside. Nothing wrong with doing these things in terms of it being a bit of fun, but actually, I can't find any evidence at all that these events or days have any positive impact on team performance, organizational performance. So you can have a bit of a laugh, and there may be, if you like, soft cultural benefits, but I've struggled to find any research or evidence to suggest that this has a measurable positive impact on the actual results that the team achieves or its performance. So there we go. So I take a bit of a critical eye. What does generally work much better is getting teams together to actually work through together, giving them the time and space to think strategically, away from their laptops and emails, to work together on real world or realistic organizational challenges. I think sometimes these can be simulations, so it's sort of like it doesn't necessarily have to be real, if you like, live problems. But and sometimes in training, what I'll do is get teams to, I'll run a simulation where I'll give them a problem to solve. But this seems to be way more effective than people going to an escape room or whatever. Giving people realistic problems to solve where they need to collaborate, possibly work, in new ways, and sort of think creatively about how they solve realistic problems. If the problem, the focus, the work that they are training on does clearly relate to the real world work that they do, then you're likely to see a positive effect. a positive impact on team performance. So it's not really to say that trust building, team building type events are a bad idea, but if you want to have a positive effect and to see results from it, it's really important to choose something that relates to the skills and the the real world work that people do. So it's about finding relevant challenges to get teams working on rather than running around in a wood with a paintball gun. So there we go. So a little bit of evaluation there around team building. It absolutely has its place. It does help build trust, but if you want to see good results, it needs to be relevant to what the business does. There we go. Little summary on that one. Team coaching, different strategy here. So here we go. A little quote from Henley Business School. It helps teams work together with others and within their wider environment to create lasting change by developing safe and trusting relationships, better ways of working, new thinking, so that they can maximize their collective potential, purpose, and performance goals. So you can see there's a very little bit of similarity here between team building and team coaching. Team building that isn't always facilitated. Team coaching there'll be a team coach, can be quite expensive. You might need to pony up for a good one. So there can be a business cost to this for sure. And it's someone who will likely work with the team, probably someone who will be a bit of an outsider, so not directly part of the team, so that they can see things with an outsider's perspective and ask, questions that sometimes you might say are a bit obvious, but actually sometimes it's the obvious questions that an outsider would ask that really get people thinking. So team building, it tends to be focused on improving interpersonal relationships, productivity, and alignment within an organizational goals. It typically consists of short, often one-day interventions. Yeah. So team building events do tend to be just that. It's an event. It's where you go and do something for the day. In contrast, team coaching is considered to typically take place over a series of sessions. Yes, so we can see straight away we've got a bit of a difference here. So, and not necessarily full days, but it can be. But it's bringing a team together systematically, say once a month or once every couple of months, to work with them. Here's a little tool. This is one that I use when I'm doing this. I told you it could be quite expensive, so again, you're going to need long arms if you're going to get me in to do this. There we go. So we've got commissioning, what we're here to deliver. So again, this is what's the purpose of the team? Clarifying, how do we measure progress? Good question. And again, it's then facilitating conversation around that. Co-creating, what can we do together that we can't as individuals? So it's sort of like, how do we work together well? When you look at what we need to achieve, the business objectives, how do we work in a way that works to each other's strengths and that sort of thing? Connecting, how do we engage with our stakeholders? Who are our key stakeholders? And how do we influence and engage and work with them well? And again, one thing that a good coach will do is kind of get people thinking a little bit more broadly about stakeholders, because sometimes it can be things like, communities that you're part of. Now, increasingly with ESG and that sort of thing, it could be even future employees, or particularly when it comes to things like sustainability and that type of thing. So sometimes it can be really thinking a bit more widely about who stakeholders are. And then core learning, how do we keep on improving? What's a systematic way for us to work so that we learn and improve as a team over time so that we're future fit? So Hawkins' 5Cs team coaching model, really, really good. And again, so the external person will come and work with the team sort of with this type of framework behind them so that there's a bit of strategy and structure behind it. In terms of evaluation, it does tend to deliver great results for businesses when commitment is high. So the thing about it is, of course, you need people's full focus and attention in the session. You need them to lean and engage with it. And also there's usually work to do in between. So it's not just what happens in the coaching conversation, it's the work that happens in between meetings. So it requires significant work and openness to the process of all participants. So if you have somebody in the team who's a bit cynical, a bit closed off, then it's less likely to deliver full results. It can also be quite challenging. This is the other thing, that if there is, say there's conflict or bad behavior or a lack of trust, a good team coach will challenge that. They'll kind of put the spotlight on it, and it can be quite uncomfortable. So it requires, I think, an open mind and a bit of courage for people to really get the best from it, to be actually, and there'll be things like giving each other really, really genuine and open feedback. That's not comfortable, it's not always an easy thing to do. So uh, it does require that full commitment from people for it to work fully. So, and just as we saw in that last quote, it takes place over a series of sessions. It requires time and effort. So it's a business commitment, and it needs everybody who's involved to be fully engaged for it to work out. So it's not different to one-to-one coaching. If you've ever engaged with that, one-to-one coaching is similar in terms of it works very well when commitment's high. But here you've just got the added complexity of needing to get the commitment and buy-in from a group of people, not just an individual. There we go. So that's two strategies: trust building, team building, and team coaching, and a little bit of a discussion about really the pros and cons. I think it's probably easier to critique the team building day. Team coaching, is a more, I would say, solid. Sorry, someone's just calling their dog. There we go. I'm not going to start again. That's it. Thank you very much. I hope that video has been helpful. And nearly there.